All right, I want to add a few more objects to this form. Don't have too many now. I don't have the toolbox over here at the side, so remember, just click on View, Toolbox, and one object that you'll use quite often in this class is the button object, because you will have code behind it. When you click on a button, you need something to happen. Besides dragging an object from the toolbar onto the form, you can also double click. It may end up in the wrong spot, but you can move it wherever you want. And if you notice, as I'm moving the button around, you see blue lines. The blue lines allow you to horizontally and or vertically align objects. Okay, so it makes your life a little bit easier. All right. Now, I'm going to be using this button, so I'm going to go up and I'm going to rename it. The prefix for a button is BTN, and I'm just going to real originally call it button. Now, this is the name of the object that I will use in my code. But what displays on the form, okay, is what's in the text property. So I need to come down, and this is, I keep emphasizing properties because you need, not all objects have the same property where they keep information, but a label and a button both keep their information in the text property. So in this case, I'm going to write something wrong. And you see that I wrote in the text, this is my first button, but you only see this is my. When you put objects on the form, just because they're on there, and you put information in this case, in the button text property, you're not done. You need to make sure that everything can be viewed by the user. So you need to grab one of the left or right sizing handles and expand the button so that all the text can be seen. I'm going to bring down a second button, and since I already called the first button BTN button, I'll just make up another name. Let's say maybe this button, when we click on it, is going to calculate payroll. So you want the name of the button to represent what it would do. So button payroll, only that's the name in this hat. And it's a good thing it happened to me, so I could tell you. The button object was sitting at the text property, not up at the top of the name, because the last thing I changed on this button was text. So it stays at the same property. So all I want to do here is show the word payroll so that it shows in the button. So I need to scroll up, and again, it's at the top of the properties. Before you have the properties in alphabetic order, name in parentheses. So now I'm going to type BTN payroll. And that's the name I would use in my code to cause some event to happen, which in this case should be calculating gross pay, net pay, and different taxes that need to appear. All right. Now, besides the blue sizing handles, there are also red. Now, to me, that's more pink, but these are called red. And the idea of the red is they're only horizontal, and they align the bottom of text within objects. Okay, so see if I move it here, it's gone. I can still get the blue lines, but I get the red. So I can do something like this. All right, let's say that I am done with my project, which I've just been playing around with. So I go under File, and notice that there are 3 save options: Save, Form, Example.bb, Save Form Example.bb As, and Save All. This is very different from other packages that you've ever used. The only option you should select is to save all at all times. If you pick one of the first 2, you are only saving a file. And nowadays, Visual Basic projects, and that's why they're called projects, not programs, have a lot of files and folders in them. So you need to save any files that have been modified. So you always want to pick Save All. Also, because of this setup, you cannot do, a normal Save As and have like a backup copy of the file within Visual Basic. You have to close up the Visual Basic project and do a Windows copy and paste. That's the only way, because there is no normal, what you would consider a normal save option. So I'm going to hit Save All. And then just to let you know that after you've saved, and that just went to the code window, there's nothing there, so don't worry. You just click back if that happens. Don't panic, and notice I have the 2 tabs I mentioned. The one that's in square brackets that says Design has the form, the other one has the code. All right, so some little thing happened, but I want to close up this project, so I'm just going to say File, Close Project. But because some little movement happened, Visual Basic will give you a dialog box like this saying, do you want to save these changes? Because something did happen. And notice that there's 3 different files there that got modified by me just moving the mouse around a little bit. So please pay attention to the dialog boxes. They could look like this, or you could have another dialog box that pops up that the heading says Close Project, and it says, do you want to save or discard the changes that you have made? And basically it's since the last time you saved. For you, because you're not playing around, you will always want to hit Save. I play around, obviously, when I'm teaching, and so some of the stuff I do I don't necessarily want to keep, so I may say discard. But normally whatever you're doing, you are creating for a homework assignment, so, or you're just practicing on your own and you want to keep the changes you made. So just go ahead and say yes. Now, I left Visual Basic open just to show you, how do I reopen the project? You can open up Visual Studio and then come under File, Open, File, and what you do is you look for the location of where you specified when you first started the project. And if you remember, I saved the file on my M drive, and there it is in a folder. And while I'm here, I'm going to double click on Example and just show you and give you an idea of how many files and folders a project can have. And this is a small project, and all I put on is just a few things. So I click on Example. Yes, I've got these folders and these folders, nothing there yet. I have this folder, there's nothing there yet. Go back. I've got all these files in this folder. I've got this folder, debug, got another layer. All those had files in them. So you get the gist of what I'm saying, that there are quite a few files and folders. So that's why it's very important to make sure you pick File, Save All, not save the form, and do not try to use the save to create a new copy of your project. You need to close up the project and do a Windows copy and paste. Now, the file that you execute to start a project once it's created is the solution file. And you'll notice over here this says Microsoft Visual Studio Solution. So it's a file that ends in SLN. So you just double click on it, and there it is. Now, let's say we do close up Visual Studio, okay? And most of you are not going to open up Visual Studio. You'll go to the location where your project is. And my project, if you remember, is sitting in my M drive, all right, in the example folder. And there I go. And depending on how fast the computer is, there it is. It is opened up. So that's how you can close a project, and that's how you reopen a project.